Does perception match reality? I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia. These days, it's tough to watch the news. Last weekend, 15 people shot at a funeral in Chicago. Then 3 fishing buddies shot to death in Florida. In Atlanta, New Orleans, Washington, other cities, shooting victims have included children. For example, on July 12 in Brooklyn, a 1-year-old boy killed by gunfire in his stroller while picnicking with his family. And of course, for 58 straight nights, there's been protesting, sometimes violence, rioting, and looting in 16 square blocks of downtown Portland. The conflict between law enforcement and the protesters is not letting up. Last night, federal troops again clashed with thousands of Portland protesters. In the early hours of Thursday morning, the city's mayor got caught up in the fray and was among those who were tear-gassed. 3 hours north in Seattle, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or CHAZ, was cleared July 1st after a series of violent events, including the death of a teenager. And of course, Seattle and Portland followed Minneapolis, where the killing of George Floyd sparked days of tumult and protests, both peaceful and violent, across the country. Perhaps it's no wonder, then, that President Trump has sought to portray himself as the thin blue line that separates order from anarchy. At yesterday's presser, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany played a video so full of violence that Fox News execs decided to pull away.
These are not the actions of so-called peaceful protesters, and the Trump administration will not stand by and allow anarchy in our streets. Law and order will prevail, and I have a short video for you because I want it to be real, what is happening right now in Portland. So if we could play that video, that'd be great.
All right, we were not expecting that video, and our management here at Fox News has decided we will pull away from that at this time.
Fox's daytime programming decision at odds with nighttime programming, which seems to play imagery of mayhem on a loop. Seeking to capitalize on this perception of chaos, the Trump campaign spent $550,000 in just the first 2 days of the week on a new ad. It shows an elderly woman who calls police in response to a home invader, then drops her phone before anybody answers. An earlier version of that spot shows a split screen depicting violence on one side and an empty 911 call center on the other. The claim is that Joe Biden will bring about this end. The tagline, "You won't be safe in Joe Biden's America." It's all disconcerting to watch, right? And it would be easy to conclude that we're living in a terribly dangerous time. But does perception match reality? Frankly, I don't know. Consider this story from the Oregonian titled, "Feds Right-Wing Media Paint Portland as City Under Siege. A Tour of Town Shows Otherwise." It says that many Portlanders denounced the national media's coverage of the city's protests, claiming that while graffiti is typical and occasional clashes with police do occur, stories of violence are exaggerated. No doubt there has been an uptick in street violence and rioting in certain cities, as we're having a necessary conversation about social justice and doing so in the midst of a pandemic. And by the way, I've got zero tolerance for any of the mayhem that I've seen depicted, and I believe that local law enforcement needs to take control. But is the perception of widespread lawlessness supported by the data? The portrayal of violence on the streets of America in the summer of 2020 makes me wonder if we're witnessing a replay of the summer of 2001. You remember? The summer of the shark. It all began on July 6 when 8-year-old Jesse Arbogast had his arm ripped off by a shark. From then on, every incident involving the frightening fish, no matter the severity, was covered and scrutinized. George Burgess, the director of the International Shark Attack File, says he received 3 times the typical number of media inquiries that summer, totaling 900. It was all that anybody could talk about until the tragic events of September 11 knocked the shark out of the news. In the end, the total number of attacks that year, 76 worldwide, 9 fewer than the year before. The number of shark-related fatalities actually decreased that year, going from 12 in the year 2000 to 5 in 2001. Or you could think about last year, when reports of American deaths in the Dominican Republic led to terrifying headlines, conspiracy theories, and a crash in tourism to the country. When 10 Americans died in the DR between January and June of 2019, some from natural causes, some maybe not. If you look at the raw numbers, these deaths, while tragic, are not out of the ordinary. According to the State Department, 13 Americans died in the DR in 2018. That's from non-natural causes, meaning the actual number could be higher. In 2017, the State Department said that 17 Americans died on the island from non-natural causes. While there may be suspicious circumstances around some of those deaths, the State Department released a statement, and it said this: "We do not publish statistics regarding natural deaths abroad. However, speaking generally, over 2.7 million U.S. citizens visit the Dominican Republic each year, and we have not seen an uptick in the number of U.S. citizen deaths reported to the department." Bottom line is this: despite the hysteria, American deaths in the DR were not on the rise last year. And my point is, we need to make sure our perceptions are based on statistics and not on stories. And the stats that will matter most won't be out until next year.